Okay, this is one time I don't have too many cooks in the kitchen. I actually have two chefs in the kitchen as my guests, which is pretty good. They're James Beard and Julia Child award-winning chefs Susan Feniger and Mary Sue Milliken. And their latest expansion in Las Vegas, hi ladies, is their first standalone and drive-through concept of their beloved BBQ Mexicana, blending Mexican and traditional Southern flavors and crafted with organic, seasonal, and fresh ingredients. BBQ Mexicana, which is Border Grill's sister concept, is located on Sunset and Durango. For everything about BBQ Mexicana, go to bbqmexicana.com and you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram. Susan and Mary Sue, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's wonderful having both of you. I had Mary Sue on back in 2014. Those were pre-Zoom days. And we were on the phone and I was cooking while she was talking and I burned the toast and killed the eggs. So, but now it's a whole new world. So, okay.
Yeah.
Now I've got to ask the question, which I asked Susan off air, but I'm prepared to embarrass myself on air. And that is, because it's not spelled out, is it BBQ Mexicana or barbecue Mexicana? I pronounced it correct in the intro, but shouldn't it theoretically be B-A-R-B-E, whatever, however you spell barbecue versus just BBQ?
I mean, I think you could say that that's how it would read, but I think people, when they see BBQ, think about that word as being barbecue. So
okay.
I think that's how you see it, even visually when it says BBQ.
But if I see BB King, I don't think of him as Barbecue King, although he may be, that may have been a second career. I don't know. So before anything else, how did the two of you get together and where did you meet and how did that all happen? Because you're both famous individually, but together you're this powerful duo opening up restaurants all over the place.
Well, we not unusually, we met in a kitchen in Chicago a very long time ago. I think it was 1978, maybe. And we worked together. It was a very fine French restaurant called Le Perroquet, right on the near north side of Chicago. And we both were in love with the food that they served there. Luckily, we got into the kitchen and we very quickly realized that we'd never worked with another person that was as dedicated as we both were. We were so driven and so serious about our careers. It was kind of like, what a breath of fresh air to meet someone who's just as obsessed with this as I am.
It is unusual, yeah.
Yeah, and we were the only two women in that kitchen. Mary Sue was the first woman in that kitchen, and then I came along. So, I think we ended up spending about a year and a half working there together, and then we went our separate ways. I ended up moving out to LA and got a job at Ma Maison with Wolfgang Puck, and Mary Sue ended up opening up a place in where in Wheeling? No, where?
Deerfield.
Oh yeah, Deerfield. And and we stayed in touch, not a lot, but we stayed in touch. And it turned out that at some point, one of us called the other one, and we were both going to France within a couple of weeks of each other. Mary Sue to Paris and me to the south of France.
So we met up there and then we kind of kept in touch by phone. And I mean, this was long before cell phones.
Yeah, so the rates must be very high.
Actually, long before email.
Yeah, I had to go to the phone booth at the post office in La Napoule to call to set up a time when we would talk to each other.
And I had to go to a phone booth in Paris. I remember finding one that was broken so I could call and not have to pay.
Perfect, Milliken.
I just got a note from the police about this incident with you refusing to pay for a phone call. I know it was a while ago, but they remember. Yeah, but that's okay. So, how did you guys decide to? Because there's so many ways you could go, and you're opening up this BBQ Mexicana, and as I talked about in the opening, it's a fusion in a way, but an informal fusion of two different approaches. So how did that come about? What was it that and it's a drive-through. So how did you, or drive-in, is there a movie? Can you watch movies while you're there? No, probably not. But
no, that would be fun.
Yeah, that would. How did you guys decide on this particular approach? That's why probably the question is, but I kind of ambled over into it. So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, the barbecue concept was inspired by our executive chef at the time who had worked for us for many years, Mike Miner. And he had a barbecue truck. And he had worked for us for a long time. Then he went off and had his truck for a few years. But when he came back to work for us at Border Grill at Mandalay Bay, he was all jazzed about barbecue. And we were interested, and he wanted to put a smoker in. And we put the smoker in, and he started, I think the first thing he did was the brisket, the burnt end brisket. And we were blown away with how delicious it was. And so it got him inspired and us inspired to find another little location at Mandalay Bay where we could start to test out some things and see about doing something that was sort of a quick casual concept and have it be a limited menu, but be able to be something that we all thought was really fabulous, and using, hormone-free, antibiotic-free meat, and really sort of staying with our sustainable objectives, but doing something that was quick, casual, and really delicious.
when you first started testing it out, did you realize it would be an informal approach versus a formal approach in terms of the dining experience?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
think we were, really into the burn end burrito. And then also being, at this point, Californians through and through, very obsessed with eating tons of vegetables and having some healthy choices. We came up with a really beautiful smoked tofu that is also barbecued, but very tasty. Even hardcore carnivores say that they don't miss the meat. And then, we have a chicken and a pulled pork, and we do a salad, a BLT salad and a BLT salad wrap. And, I think our approach with all of our restaurants is to do what we love to eat, and then also to adapt to what our clientele is really, excited about. So, anything that we put on the menu that doesn't sell, we drop it. And the things that really sell well, we just continue to kind of tweak them and make them better and better and better. And then we had an opportunity. I think our first opportunity was to go to the ballpark, the baseball park in Vegas, and we opened a little satellite BBQ Mexicana there, and that was also really well received. And then, Allegiant Stadium came along, and T-Mobile, where we have locations. And this is our chance to really prove the concept in a place that doesn't have a built-in river of people walking past to go to a concert or a football game or a convention. And we're very confident that we've tweaked the menu enough that, people are very happy to eat it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because different than in the stadiums. In the stadiums is where we really have, I think, focused on, is there a big demand for the smoked chicken, the tofu, the brisket? And I think that we feel strong about. But I think in barbecue on Sunset, BBQ Mexicana on Sunset, we expanded that menu a bit more to be more like the Mandalay Bay menu, where you have things like the charred broccolini, the, cilantro coleslaw, the cowboy caviar, all the sides. You could get guac and chips. And here we also decided we would do not just the burritos, the bowls, and the salads with those proteins, but that we would also do tacos with it. So we expanded that menu a bit because we felt like we'd had such great response from locals at these stadiums that we wanted to try to reach out into the community a bit more. But what would make it a more well-rounded menu? We have a kids menu on there too, like with the fried chicken tacos. And so we wanted to be able to have it be an area that people with kids and families could run by, be able to order ahead, be able to drive through and take it out, take it home. Because we also do these catering parties or menus where you could do a setup for 10 or for 12 or for, and do a party at home. So we were trying to make this a little bit more goal oriented for the community, where it would be a place they wanted to go, regularly.
I was going to actually, it's funny because I was going to ask the question earlier and you almost answered it in a sense, Mary Sue, that it's a different vibe when you're in a stadium or an arena, when you have a restaurant or a food outlet versus a standalone. And and also too, because it's a drive-in type of operation, there's also the perception sometimes that the food's not going to be as good as a sit down and have a regular formal dining experience or that type of approach. And yet you're obviously able to do that. Was it a challenge to think it through in the sense because you have all these other outlets in Las Vegas that are in either arenas, casinos, stadiums, etc.?
I don't think so. We opened our first restaurant in 1981 together on Melrose Avenue, a little 900 square foot long, skinny restaurant with just, 6 or 8 tables and a bar. And I think we have, we've opened restaurants in Pasadena, in Long Beach, in Palm Springs just recently. We've had the restaurants in Las Vegas for a long time. I think we have an idea of what kind of food works where and why. And I think this menu is designed to be able to be quickly prepared, but still very fresh and last minute. So when you drive by but between the time you place your order and drive around the corner, we have quickly been able to put together something quite delicious and, spectacular.
I mean, we're doing it, it's really not that different than if we're making the same thing at Border Grill at Mandalay Bay. I mean, we are making it to order. We're, if it's something we need to saute, we're sauteing it to order. When we're making a quesadilla, we're doing the cheese right then. We're frying things right to order. So in many ways, it's just a more limited menu, but one that we feel that we can execute to order and still be really delicious.
Yeah, that makes sense. Mary Sue, you mentioned something in my brain, of course, seized on it. You mentioned the one you opened on Melrose Avenue. Do you remember what the cross street was?
Martel.
Oh, okay, right in West Hollywood. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Right across from the soap plant. Back in the day when it was kind of a punk neighborhood, and we'd have like people coming in with like giant big what do you call those?
Mohawks.
Yeah.
And then guys in like a 3-piece suit and sitting next to each other and ordering.
Yeah, it was fun.
So down the block from Pink's hot dog stand, I guess.
Yes, not far.
Yes.
And also,
Go ahead.
we're also doing there, which I love too, is we're doing, like, we bake our own chocolate chip cookies every morning. We make these fruit cobbler empanadas every day. So in that way, it really, I think, and we've tried to keep the price point similar to what someone could get at a, drive-through.
Right.
And so I think in that way, and probably a lot of is that, we opened at the airport at LAX like 12 years ago. So we've sort of gotten, I think we have and we've got 2 taco trucks. So we have a good sense of how do you put out really yummy food, not too expensive, and to taste really still, restaurant quality.
How do the two of you avoid looking stressed? When I think of even just opening one restaurant and you have 8 million, how is it that you can stay on top of all that and still be relaxed? Can you explain that to me, please?
Yeah, we don't.
Are you both secretly type A?
Therapy. Yeah, it's a nonstop struggle.
Oh. Yeah, I think it gets overwhelming. Okay, this is a naive question, but I have to ask because I've never gotten an answer from anybody correctly, and maybe you two could do it. We always hear about food shortages or food scarcity and the diminishing food supplies and et cetera. And then 9 million more restaurants open up. So where does this food come from in general that there seems to be a shortage of, but there isn't? So why are we getting mixed messages about this?
Good question. I mean, I think more restaurants are constantly opening, but many restaurants are also constantly closing. So I don't think you really have that many more restaurants. Although in Vegas, I think it's a little bit of a unique kind of place because of the, you know, the enormous influx of people that come in on the weekends and that come in from the Midwest and from California. So, and everybody is really looking to restaurants as entertainment, especially in Vegas.
Right.
So I think there's this perception that there's always new restaurants popping up, but
there is one called BBQ Mexicana. So there you go. I've proven my.
Well, I think there's also that food shortage in the way that it's getting handled out there in the market. Prices continue to go up.
Right.
For those products, which then causes restaurants to have to raise prices or not and potentially go out of business. So it's this sort of circle that happens. I mean, costs right now, just like labor shortage, there's higher wages for employees, and
Right.
there's
Especially in
food shortage.
California, I know with the minimum wage act that they passed.
Yeah, which is, a good thing. It's always a fine line between that. But certainly in terms of, I think, cost of goods, there's no question. Those have gone up dramatically, which causes it to be much more difficult to run a successful business.
But
No
you
question.
two are so optimistic that you continue to open. So even though other restaurants close, even in other cities, but even in Las Vegas, you guys are opening up.
Yeah, we closed though.
Closing is, we've closed our fair share and we've lost our fair share of billions of dollars through opening restaurants that failed, basically. But I think, anybody who's a small business owner, an entrepreneur, is a risk taker. That's why we don't gamble in Vegas. We just open restaurants.
We open restaurants there.
And everywhere. It's a gamble wherever you're opening.
Yeah, it's putting your chips down on red and hoping that the wheel gets there when you're opening a new restaurant. When you're putting together the BBQ Mexicana restaurant, it's as I mentioned earlier, again, without getting too bogged down in the flavors and in the approach, it's not the typical barbecue because it's Mexican. So it's blending traditional Southern flavors and you're using organic, seasonal, fresh ingredients. So do you find that works as a unique taste, as a unique look, and that's why people are going to that?
Yeah, I think, I mean, truly, like that burnt end brisket and like the smoked tofu, that, it's addictive. And we make these, I think, really delicious barbecue sauces that go with it. And then I think how when we think about putting together something as simple as like the burrito, we're thinking about, okay, it's got to be a good quality tortilla. It has to be high quality Mexican cheeses. The brisket is, we smoke it for 14 hours. We make a homemade coleslaw with a homemade dressing. We put in homemade barbecued potato chips, crunched up.
You're getting me hungry, Susan.
Well,
but we think about whether it's a simple, quick, something quick that you're going to pick up to go. We think about it just like we would thinking about doing a fish veracruzana. It has to be as delicious.
And it's two of America's favorite things, Mexican food and barbecue. It's sort of like marrying the two things that people crave. They crave good tacos and good burritos, and they crave great barbecue. So, it's kind of a no-brainer, really. I mean, we have to thank Mike Miner for coming up with the idea, and he was a joy to work with all those many years, and left us with this great. Well, we invested in this great idea and kind of, nurtured it for all this time. It's been, God, at least 6 or 7 years since we opened BBQ Mexicana at Mandalay Bay. And so it takes a while for us to incubate and get really, really, confident that we have nailed it. And that's where we're at.
So was Mike Miner under 21 when you first talked to him about this? Just out of curiosity.
Well, yeah,
I don't think
he might have
so.
acted that way, which is why we loved him.
Why is it that you two are, famous chefs, you own all these restaurants, and you both look very healthy? What I mean by that, I'm using a euphemism, you're not 500 pounds. How do you avoid that when you're opening all these restaurants and eating all this delicious food? Can you answer that question, please? Thank you.
Well, the older I get, the less I can eat. I mean, I can eat a lot, but if I
Right.
do, it just sticks to me. So I've had to really think about everything that passes those lips.
Mhm.
You know, back in the day when we were young, I mean, I was 23 when we opened our first restaurant. I'm
That's
66
impressive.
now. And, I would go all day long just eating constantly and, big hunks of carnitas and whatever I wanted. It was just fine. Unfortunately, as the decades roll by, you just that kind of changes, and you just got to be, in tune with your body to some degree.
But if
But
the
I
two, go
don't
ahead,
try
Susan.
skinny chef either, so I'm not.
You eat lots of, when you're in restaurants, you taste. You sort of taste all day.
Right.
And that, in many ways is a better way of eating than just eating a big, heavy meal, I think, as sometimes people do. So I think for many years, even though you did sort of eat and taste all day long, you were on your feet, you were going. And so that it was sort of the combination of lots of small meals and on your feet working long hours. It's, different now for sure, but I think it's still like when we're opening a restaurant, I feel like, in some ways, I feel like that's the easiest time to not eat too much because you're constantly working. So you're not really eating much. It'll be like 11 o'clock at night and it's like, oh my God, is there any leftover salad left to eat or something like that?
Right. But when the two of you collaborate on a dish, for example, are you at the point now where you'll take a little taste of it, but then you have people that work for you that do the full tasting and make sure that it's what you want? Or you just taste, as you said earlier, or a moment ago, you just taste it, and that because you both have educated palates, you can tell whether it's going to work or not.
Yeah, I mean, and our chefs are playing around with dishes all the time and creating dishes. And, Mary Sue and I, either together or separate, will go and taste. And you taste something once or twice and you know whether it really works or it doesn't work. And you sort of give ideas to tweak and then they go and tweak with their input. So it's really a collaboration. I mean, it's always been a collaboration with us, and certainly at these days, it's a huge collaboration with our chefs because they're the ones that are driving it.
Right.
But as you say, as your palate gets more and more educated, you can kind of imagine, like you take a bowl, a soup spoonful of soup and taste it. You can imagine, but there are certain times when I feel like I'm training a new cook and I want him to just sit down and eat like 5 spoonfuls to really see, is it too overpowering in some ways? Because if you just take one, sometimes you're not. That's like a way to train your palate better, I think. And then to keep all those things in your mind, like you're tasting it, but you're also thinking, I want to make sure I could eat 20 spoonfuls of this.
Right. If there's too much salt in there, you're not going to want to have those 20.
No, but it might be perfect for a sauce.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
That works fine. How often do the two of you get together and discuss restaurants, food, maybe another cookbook, that kind of thing? Are you on the phone with each other daily, hourly, minute wise? How does that work?
Well, we used to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we talk a number of times each week. But usually it's with like our CEO or with our, our operations person, or maybe it's with one of the chefs, like our new chef in Palm Springs. I feel like I talk to him quite a bit. He'll run an idea or send pictures of something he's working on. And, and I might say like, well, wait, what is that going with? That sounds great. Or what about if you added something? I mean, I think that's what we've gotten after this many years is the ability to hear about a dish and imagine, like, I wonder if it needs this. What do you think? And that could be done over a phone call or a text or something.
Right. Do you guys play like good cop, good chef, bad chef when you're talking to one of their chefs in one of the restaurants and
I
you
think
take one
there
approach?
there was a period of time when that was sort of one of the dynamics of our relationship, our partnership. Less so now. I mean, any kind of partnership that's going to last 4 decades plus,
Yeah, that's impressive.
going to go through a lot of different machinations. In the beginning, we both did every single thing together, every single thing. Like not even a dish went out of the kitchen without both of us signing off on it.
Yeah.
And then it's this long sort of slow kind of growth and letting go and letting the other one, more and more trust and more sort of, respect and more understanding what each other's talents are and strengths are and weaknesses are, and then being able to really grow and change with the way we're both growing and changing. I think when things go south, it's when one person isn't really willing to grow or change or isn't ready to change.
Well, Mary Sue, before you got on, Susan and I were talking about the fact that she doesn't like you anymore. So,
Oh, she knows
know.
that. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's like, well, should we make it a 45th year or not?
yeah.
Well,
Before I let the two of you go, what's the future for the two of you in Las Vegas? More restaurants to open, a cookbook, all of the above, or what?
well, we're really excited about BBQ Mexicana. We think we want to really see, like, okay, is there a market for this? Is the drive-through quick casual a little bit more expensive? But the service, I think, is really feels like it's very much who we are. It's really warm and friendly and really, I think that's exciting. And we want to try to explore that and see if we can make this really work for the market. So,
And we've really been very, very fortunate in Las Vegas to have some of the best people we've ever worked with have come to us from Las Vegas. And, the pool of people to hire in Vegas is amazing. I don't know if it's UNLV or, just the level of professionalism and the level of passion and dedication to the craft and to the service and to hospitality. We've been really lucky. And I think the next step really is for our team to take over even more and really run with this BBQ Mexicana concept and others. We have also Pachamamas, which is a kind of a Peruvian skewer concept.
it's at T-Mobile too. It's at T-Mobile and at the Raiders. So
And-
and I want to just reiterate what Mary Sue said, which is when we first came to Vegas 23 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever, something like that.
99, 25 years ago.
25 years ago. So many people were like, oh my God, it's going to be so hard to staff it. And like Mary Sue said, we've had the most amazing luck with incredible people who have grown up there, who've lived there, just an incredible team. And so for us, that labor force has been just fantastic. And I have to say, we've had an unbelievable relationship with the executives at, MGM initially with Circus and then with Mandalay Bay, with their team of executives that have been so supportive of us. And, they're our landlord and they've been incredible. So we have fallen in love with Vegas in a way that I don't think any of us really imagined we would, but it's such an incredible hospitality city.
Well, that's a great way to leave it. My guests have been James Beard and Julia Child, award-winning chefs, Susan Feniger and Mary Sue Milliken, and their latest expansion in Las Vegas is BBQ Mexicana. their first standalone and drive-through. I kept calling it drive-in, but I think it works either way. Drive-through concept of their beloved BBQ Mexicana. It's blending Mexican and traditional Southern flavors and crafted with organic, seasonal, and fresh ingredients. And for everything about BBQ Mexicana, go to bbqmexicana.com and you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram. And Susan and Mary Sue, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you soon because we almost have our margaritas in-house there. So don't hesitate to come and have a drink.
Will do. See you next time.